Who are the guys who are going to tell you about interesting stuff? Skewl Psychos!
Hello world! We are Skewl Psychos. I'm Mr. G.
I'm Mr. Z.
And we are two school psychologists. We are back with another episode of Under the Covers, where we look at album cover art and pretend as if one of our students drew it, and we analyze it using our knowledge of personality assessments. Mr. Z, what do you have for us today?
So today we're going to be looking at the release by For A Cowboy called Doom. I believe it was their first release by King of the Monsters in 2005, then reissued by Metal Blade Records in 2006. So, yeah, I could just start describing what this image is right off the bat.
Yeah, for our viewers who may not be looking at their screen, even though why wouldn't you, right? We're in the age of social media. But yeah, why don't you just give a description? Because, someone might be doing dishes, somebody might be on their exercise bike or playing with their puppy. So I'll leave you to it.
Thank you, Mr. G. So on this album art, we are seeing what looks to be the figure of a human torso with a hand extended out as if to shake hands. And for the head, we have the skull of what appears to be a cow or a bull. Oh, and the figure is wearing a suit. It's very fancy, like an important businessman.
We'll be covering 3 areas when we go over these album covers. Mr. Z, what 3 will those be?
So we're going to be looking at the placement, we're going to be looking at the size of the drawing, and we're going to be looking at body parts. So yeah. Shall I get us started with the placement? Thank you, Mr. G. Alright, for those of you who weren't watching, he just gave me a gesture to continue. So, anyway,
I got another gesture for you.
Okay.
Anyways, continue on.
Okay, you can show me that after if you wish. Anyway, so this is a centrally placed image. I think that's clearly a centrally placed image, which indicates one who is reasonably secure, and perhaps even somebody who is rigid. And Mr. G, did you have anything more to add to the placement?
The only thing I would add is, as you're saying, reasonably secure. It's also what you would want to be if you were going for a job interview. And so, when I see this image, that was kind of the first thing that came to mind. May have also been a little influenced with the title, but that along with that, I would also say it's a high placement, since it does reach the top of the page. And so with high placement on a drawing, that could be high aspirations. And if you're going for a job, this guy, he has a suit, he has a tie, he's going for a fancy job. And so he has those high aspirations as well, which is where my mind went.
Okay, thank you, Mr. G. So I will jump into the next portion of this video, which would be the size of the drawing. Which overall, I didn't see anything too significant about the size. Maybe it's on the larger side. Maybe that head is a little on the larger side, which both indicate some aggression. Did you see anything similar or different, Mr. G?
Yes. I didn't view this large, as the whole person doesn't fit on the page. You mentioned aggression. I also noted that, how it could be aggressive. Which also kind of falls in line when you're out job hunting, as you might need to be a little aggressive to get your time to speak in a group. I also considered the head to fall in the category of a bizarre detail. Do you mind me going into that right now?
Not at all.
So I want to acknowledge that this is a photograph. Our personality assessment stuff has to do with drawing, but for the sake of entertainment, just to have fun with all of you listening in, we're just gonna pretend that this is a drawing, so we can use our school psychology lens in analyzing as if a student drew it. With that being said, if this would have been drawn as a bizarre detail, this could be indicative of psychosis or disorganization. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely say that head is a bizarre detail for sure, indicating what you said with the themes of perhaps psychosis and disorganization. So, is it time to jump to body parts?
Yes it is.
Awesome. So, you spoke of the head. I would add that maybe that head is irregular. Well, I mean, you spoke to that already, but so not much more.
Go for it.
Not much more to add, but yeah, the psychosis, I saw that as well. I would even say there's an omission here of some facial features. So, typical human facial features. So that might suggest somebody who has a cautious nature, somebody who might be evasive or superficial. I guess going from there, I could speak to the eyes. They are referred to as the windows to the soul. So, is this something that is missing from the figure, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
So, I would add that there are also empty eyes, even though it's kind of hard to see from this angle, but they definitely look like empty eyes from the way I see it. So that might reflect someone who is introverted, or maybe somebody who is self-absorbed. So, what are your thoughts, Mr. G?
I don't disagree with you. Going off of all these facial features so far, I would bring us back. We talked about the head a good deal, of how it's an irregular head. But I also had in my notes that it could be feeling that the people around you are smarter than yourself. You don't really fit the same profile of those around you. And then, speaking of the absence of things, I also noticed the absence of hair. I guess if we want to get technical, the absence of fur. But I'm splitting hairs. So anyways, we know that emphasized hair would be a sexual preoccupation. So I was thinking that there being no hair could be the denial of one's sexual desires, and someone who is very work-driven and may put their other desires and needs on the back burner for that 9-to-5 grind.
Mr. G, that is an excellent point, I must say, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to jump down a little bit from the head to below the waist. What you were saying about the hair and just denying or repressing the parts below the waist. So I think that's kind of consistent there with what you were saying, and the whole business-oriented, I guess, nature or work. I don't know, whatever you were saying about that, the work.
Yeah, work comes first.
Work comes first. Yeah.
Let's see. And okay, so yeah, we were talking about empty eyes. Omission of facial features, going back to the whole job interview thing. You're trying to put your best foot forward, so much so that you repress your actual self in favor of trying to be something more appealing to your audience. So still being on that superficial level. I was gonna also just notice that the nose to me is emphasized, which could also can kind of be a sign of like sexual difficulties, and so like could translate to like difficulties with relationships, and it's like thinking about what do people who are like really intense like work people that they're taking those 50-hour plus weeks. Oh God, 50 week work. Okay.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
You guys get what I'm saying too, right? I hope so. The emitted mouth being like shyness or reluctance to communicate. All the stuff I've said so far doesn't really like lend itself to that at all. And then the arms and the hands. We mentioned at the beginning of all this, we saw the handshake. And this speaks to an eagerness to set a good impression. As you would want to do for a job interview. I'm going to move to the legs unless you want to like say something.
Yeah, I've always wondered, like I've always noticed about this album, I'm looking at it, the figure is extending its left hand, like its true left hand toward you as if to shake your left hand, which is pretty unusual in our culture. And so I'm wondering if that means this is supposed to be some sort of reflection, like is it a reflection of whoever's looking at it? Like, is this supposed to be you? Like when I'm looking at this, is this me? I don't know. But other than that, it seemed like some stiff arms, which is consistent with the rigidity seen in the centrally placed aspect of this image. Yeah, so you want to jump into the legs next?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's jump.
Hey. Alright, so as I said before, there's it looks like anything below the waist has been cut off. So denial or repression of those features or what they represent. So in this case, like if we're gonna go to the legs, those represent one's autonomy. So is this person or is this figure or is my autonomy supposed to be seen as denied?
That's a great question. And I love your observation about it being like a mirrored reflection. I didn't notice that at all, but I think that's a really cool thought. I agree with the like oppression of things. I did put here like omission of legs. They're lost in a vast swath of darkness. So if in this darkness is the color, I see the color black. And if we bring some color theory into this, black can be life-ending. It's a little depressing. But then I noticed that the head is white. And white could be optimism. And so I wonder if in this image, it's like the black is climbing up the figure and the head is the last vestige of happiness and positivity before it gets sucked out by the 9-to-5 grind.
Goosebumps, Mr. G. Goosebumps. Very beautifully stated. I wish my color theory notes were as awesome as that. I mean, I didn't even think about like the black part. I was looking at the white, and I wasn't even looking at the skull either. I was just looking at the logo. And because this is this band's first release, that might indicate like the optimism they have of like starting a career as a new band, because that's what the white usually represents, is some optimism. So like, oh yeah, we're gonna conquer the world, rock on, that kind of thing. Either that or it just contrasts the image behind it so you can read the logo better, but I don't know. But I like to think the former. While we're talking about color theory, I could jump to the yellow that we're seeing in this, which represents someone who aspires to do other things. So whatever that might mean, if we're looking at this like somebody applying for a job or who's on the whole 9-to-5 thing, they're aspiring to be maybe a rock star, to do whatever their dream is. The yellow can also indicate somebody who's spontaneous. I'm seeing some green in there as well that indicates some possessiveness or passiveness or defensiveness. And the mixture of the two is a chartreuse, so a mixture of those two colors, the yellow and the green. So, which is a favorite color among serial killers.
Yeah, case closed. No, it's very thoughtful color theory. Did you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just one. I mean, I'm looking at the background, and it looks like whatever this environment is, there's mutilations all across the background, and even perhaps some mutilations within that skull, which are indicative of aggression or hostile responses. So again, if I'd like to think that this is kind of a reflection. So it's looking at you as one who tends to respond in a hostile manner towards other people.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that thought.
Anything else, Mr. G?
I don't have anything else for this one.
All right. Well, thank you for watching this episode of Under the Covers with us. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear. Did you see anything different? Do you see the same things we're seeing? Let us know. And if you have an album art in mind that you want to recommend, you want to hear what we think about, please let us know. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to check it out. So, thank you again. I'm Mr. Z.
And I'm Mr. G.
Until next time, rock on.